Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Louise.
We're back for a chapter review, Journey of the Adopted Self, Betty Jean Lifton. And today we're on chapter 13. So we already went through the mom, and now we're on the fatherless self.
Yes, another sad chapter.
I know.
It's just everything is, there's a lot of grief and
It's
sadness.
a lot of grief and sadness. And I like that she actually, did we even have this addressed in the primal wound? I think this is,
I'm
what
very
happened?
sorry about that. Okay.
You can cut that. Did we have this addressed in the primal wound? I don't think she talked about.
I don't think there, if there was, it was very, minimal.
Yeah. And she says that there's not a lot out there about the father. I mean, it's not the triad, but in general, it's kind of this lost person, which is sort of what the chapter is about, right?
Yes.
So there were some quotes to start it that were sad, but I'm not going to read those, but it says the search for the lost father runs through much of modern literature. The father may have disappeared for a myriad of reasons: divorce, illness, desertion, death. The child who grows up without the father who gave him life will feel abandoned and unprotected in the world. And she gets into if an adopted father could replace that for a child. And yeah.
Yeah, especially with boys. I thought that was interesting about the father, the adoptive fathers, not feeling like it must. She gets into the psychology of how it takes their manhood away, kind of that they didn't father the child,
They didn't have the child and be the man like to look up to, and their adopted father's not really their father, this whole manhood thing. And I was like, wow.
Well, yeah, it says Young's talks about the father encompassing the roles of creator, lawgiver, impregnator, and master. The adoptive father, who represents authority, power, and control, is not the impregnator and may be perceived by the adoptee as asexual, henpecked, tied down, while the birth father is perceived as virile, macho. That was interesting. Young always has those.
Yeah, it was. And also did you have fantasies kind of about your birth father, like who he might be?
Of course.
I did too.
Yes.
Like the coolest of the cool, right?
Yes.
But she does get into that thing where you're mad at him because why did he support the mom? Was there, there's a little thing here that kind of brought up big stuff for me. It said the birth father's response to the adoptee will, as with the mother, depend on many factors: his relationship with the mother at the time of conception, his loyalty or disloyalty to her during pregnancy and delivery, his involvement in the adoption decision, whether or not he has kept a child a secret over the years, and whether he feels he is in a secure place in present relationships. That was like, I feel like that paragraph just went boom because of what we've heard about different bio dads as well, and just things I know. And
I didn't have any of those feelings because my birth father didn't know about me. Right. And my birth mother never spoke to him because there was no cell phones and he'd been drafted into Vietnam. Yeah. She tried to get a message to him, but obviously it didn't get to him. So I didn't have those feelings. Well, he is no longer
right. I wish you could have, though.
Yes, I know. I wish I could have too. So I know he had a lot of pain from PTSD.
But yeah, and you wonder what kind of relationship you could have had or not had. But
yes,
I'm kind of
going the unknowns.
Yeah, I'm going through a little bit of do I want to know my bio dad, and does he want to know me, and all that chat. I feel like that paragraph really summed up maybe just even his feelings about being with her and how he supported her, didn't support her. And I never really thought about all the things she listed.
Right.
And then she gets into.
I thought about you a lot during this chapter just because of
you did
recent stuff. Yes.
Yeah. It really was like, okay, now it's my chapter, right? It's like a whole, like last chapter, I was thinking of we view relationships, meeting your mom and stuff. So now fathers and daughters. So I thought the big thing about fathers and daughters, there was a story in here about Rachel. She was the one that kind of hit me. How she had this reunion. It's a long story, but she had a reunion with her father. And it was so like, oh my gosh, who are you? Great, let's meet. Very exciting. And then he backed off big time.
Well, and he so much has told her, like, I don't do well with needy people or whatever the word he used.
Hungry
People. Which just felt so rude, just
so rude. I don't do well with hungry people. It's like,
yes,
and he said that
it makes you feel small. Like I felt small on her behalf hearing
I did
that.
too. And she even said that was her Achilles heel, right? Is that she was needy, hence the adoptee problem. I mean, aren't we all? And then he said that she looked like his mother and
who was hungry. Yes.
And she's like, and I thought she negotiated it pretty well, actually. I don't think I would have been, because she got back in there and showed up at his office and wrote him this big letter. And eventually they did have a relationship, which made her feel more complete, but it couldn't be on, like, he couldn't do the full involvement.
And his wife was not happy about the relationship either.
No. And so he had complications, and then there was other daughters who did find their father, and they were lovely. And we've had a couple guests, I think more guests than I was looking through all of our guests. A lot of the dads have been really welcoming compared to them. There was one dad in here who's like, well, she's like, I was rejected by my birth mother. He's like, well, you have us now.
Yes.
Or something. So,
yes. I would imagine there's less emotional baggage for the fathers. They didn't have to go through,
I think,
especially if they weren't part of the pregnancy and, so it's just, there might be some complications with their current life, but it seems like from all the stories I was reading in here, the emotional baggage is a lot less than with the birth mother.
It is. And that's when it gets into the sons. I also thought she talks about when the adoptee who's a son are less likely to search, as we know.
I know. I thought that was interesting. I mean, we deduced that, I think, from all our interviews
I feel like you and I know that. We're always shocked, like, what? You don't even.
Yeah.
They're less likely to search, and they're really less likely to search for the father. And that's the part that got into the whole like manhood thing.
Yes.
I have to find that part. We'll have
I
to
know.
cut this part.
We're gonna have to cut this. It's I thought this here it is. This is what I was referring to earlier. The adoptive father's unconscious anger and shame at not producing this child, even though a natural child may have been born to him after the adoption, may make him try to put down an adopted son, to pull out the supports rather than provide them, to be competitive with him as if to prove his own manhood.
God. Well, we have actually had a few of those people too. Like an early guest comes to mind with the adopted father being like that. I know. Well, and also, what else? I have to cut this part too. Oh, Alan, that's the part. Okay. So this is interesting. There are a few men who search for this is what we're talking about. A few men who search for their birth fathers because the relationship with their birth mothers is very satisfying. They seek completion in finding the second half of themselves, but very few search for the birth father when the birth mother has gone awry. It's like they don't want to now cross that bridge. And I feel like women are more like, not always, I mean, just from what we've deduced, we'll jump in and look for another thing. And the men are like, well, that didn't go well.
Yes.
Not broaching that. And the one of our guests, David Daniels, comes to mind. Do you remember he really didn't think the birth father would be at all in his life?
And he embraced him immediately.
Yeah. And completely different kind of person than him. And
yes.
And
yes.
I happen to know him through a friend, and he's still having a great relationship with him. So
that's so great.
Yeah, that's not always the norm. And today's guest actually has a lot to do with birth fathers and adopted fathers.
Yes, true. This is true.
So we'll welcome her.
Yes. See you in a minute.
See you in a minute.